"How do you feel now?" Mom asked Joe when she was done cleaning his wounds. "It hurts," he replied as tears filled his eyes. "Don't tell your father what happened. He'll just get mad at you." Hello. Welcome to In My Words. The book I am reading from is titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles. This book is not intended for young readers. After each reading session, I will briefly give information about a chosen plant. I hope through my words you will gain insight, knowledge, and a deeper appreciation and understanding of this mysterious and intricate world. Though the road may be long and hard, compassion and beauty can be gained through the enjoyment of nature and experiencing its wondrous gifts. Thank you for joining me. Entering the bathroom, Mom said to her son, "This is going to hurt." The lukewarm water stung, but not too much. However, when the cleaning began, it really did hurt. It hurt a lot. Trying to keep her son's mind off of the events which were taking place, Mom said, "How did this happen?" Joe proceeded to tell her all that transpired. Mom was horrified, but said nothing. She couldn't reprimand George, for Thomas would get mad at her. She couldn't ask George to explain anything, for he never seemed to really remember. "How do you feel now?" Mom asked Joe when she was done cleaning his wounds. "It hurts," he replied as tears filled his eyes. "Don't tell your father what happened. He'll just get mad at you." "Okay," he answered. "Let's get you some aspirin, and then you can go and play. You'll feel better tomorrow." The two went into the kitchen. Joe took the aspirin, but didn't feel like playing. "Can I watch TV with George instead?" "Sure," came her simple answer. Mom had a lot on her mind. She was fearful that Thomas would find out, and then things would get really bad. But fortunately for them, Dad never found out what happened. Joe had kept a shirt and long pants on until he was completely healed. Dad never noticed anything different. Chapter 15. Rejection. After Johnny turned 2, George and Elizabeth stopped helping out. Mom and Dad once again began leaving the children alone. That left much of the burden on Joe. Although Johnny had his own toddler food, Joe had to figure out how to feed his siblings and himself. On the days that Dad had made food, there really was no decision to make, for they ate what was pre-made. Sometimes Dad would make cornmeal mush, tomato rice soup, or sauerkraut. So that is what they would eat. However, when Mom made food, Dad would set limitations as to what they could and could not eat. Joe knew that the good food was for Mom and Dad's wine suppers, and the special toddler food was for Johnny. The young boy knew that the powdered milk, which the 4 older children made in a large blue plastic 5-gallon vat, was okay for them to drink. But as to the food situation, Joe would have to find any spare food lying around the kitchen or in the refrigerator. Once Joe gave his siblings and himself some canned soup, thinking it would be safe for them to eat without retribution from Dad. But that isn't what happened. Dad was furious as he called the 4 children into the living room. "Bend over," he commanded to Joe, since he was first in line. "You're such an effing idiot for giving my food to you kids. You're going to get it. You're all going to get it." Once again, a terrifying scene played out from this house of pain. Dad grabbed the extension cord that he had placed on the arm of the big chair and then raised it high in the air for all to see. It came down with a venomous lash against his son's legs. Missing Joe's butt didn't deter him from continuing his assault on the boy. Again and again, the large man raised the cord and cruelly whipped it hard against Joe's thin body. Pain ripped through Joe, but only silent tears fell upon his young face. All the children began crying as they waited in turn to be whipped. Dad ignored their pleas for mercy. 5 more times for Joe. Then it was Sissy's turn. 7 hits per child in all. Scott and Sarah were last, so they had to watch the 2 older children being beaten. Terror penetrated through their body as the screams and sights registered in their brains. By the time Dad was done, red welts covered the children's legs, butts, and backs. Was Dad intentionally missing his target to inflict more pain? the children would never know the answer. "Next time, you kids won't be so effing stupid, will you?" He walked away without an answer. The monster faded inside of Dad and hid shallowly below the surface, waiting until awoken again. After that event, Joe would do what he could for food. He would wait until Mom bought groceries. Then, when the package was freshly opened, he would sneak out small amounts of food so they wouldn't be missed. It was never enough for the children. They were starving. Today's plant highlight is the rose. Roses come in many different colors and sizes. Some are tea roses, where the flower is very small, while others are much larger and can be very perfumed to mildly perfumed. Roses come in the colors of pink, red, lavender, white, orange, yellow, and multicolored with either double or single bloom. The rose can be a small bush plant all the way to a large vining type. Roses in many states will come back year after year and are considered a perennial in zones 4 through 10. However, I would like to mention that roses grow in my zone area of 3, as you can see in these photos of my vining rose bush. Also, I would like to mention that both of my grandmas grew roses in their gardens, and they lived in north central Minnesota. So I suppose we either have and have had very hardy plants, or perhaps the cultivars were different back then. The rose bush that you see in these pictures, my son gave to me over 25 years ago and has been growing and producing beautifully year after year, as I said, in my Zone 3 area. When roses produce hips, the hips are edible. However, do not eat the seed inside, for it will cause unwanted side effects such as a prickly feeling inside the mouth caused by the very fine hairs on the seed. Use caution when using the hips and learn how to remove the seed from inside before you decide to consume it. Or, if you choose, you can purchase dried rose hips where the hairs have already been removed. This makes for a wonderful tasting tea. The petals of the roses are also edible. They are usually candied and put on top of desserts, or you can use them to make a tea. Rose plants come in varieties of very long, sharp thorns to thornless. However, even when the plant is advertised as thornless, they truly aren't. The plant still has thorns. They are just not as pronounced as the ones with much larger thorns. When you've seen, heard, or been given a bouquet of roses, and the roses didn't have thorns, that is because the thorn had been removed prior to being put into the bouquet. Roses prefer full sun. Well, that is all for today with roses. I hope you enjoyed this short knowledge-based audio. Please like, share, and subscribe. Next time I will highlight another plant and continue reading. If you would like to follow along with this reading, you may pick up the book titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles at Amazon.com. I look forward to having you join me next time.